primate centers around the world, but I'd never seen an orangutan, and one of the only places you can see them in the wild, Indonesia. And to see one finally will satisfy a longing I've had for 20 years.
We were out to capture orangutans with the magic of our cameras. John Coe used up more rolls of film than anybody in an effort to authentically reproduce the rainforest at the Ford-sponsored Zoo Atlanta exhibit.
Beautiful forest. Absolutely beautiful. Thick. Green. Life everywhere.
In the days to come, we would see that life. From ferocious Sumatran tigers to docile island ducks, from abundant monkeys to hermit crabs and wasps struggling in the sand at sunset. As we search for the provocative orangutan, the rich flora and fauna of this ancient archipelago would be ours. Once we got there, but that was no easy task. Our journey took us halfway around the world from Atlanta via Zurich, courtesy of Swiss Air, where Atlanta took its place among other exotic cities. The flight took us over Turkey, Syria, the Indian Ocean, Bangkok, Singapore, and finally, 24 hours later, Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia. Jakarta is located on the northeastern tip of the island of Java, third largest island in the Indonesian archipelago. Sumatra to the north, Bali and Komodo to the south are islands we would also visit. Jakarta is one of the oldest cities in Southeast Asia, and today is a clash of color and culture. More than 8 million people jam the city streets, making Jakarta one of the most densely populated cities in the world. In spite of the close quarters, Indonesians are gregarious and outgoing. These are tuk-tuks, enclosed motorcycles that serve as taxis, very comfortable. When they need to fill them up or change a tire, they simply pull up to the corner gas station.
Fast local food is served from roadside carts, pulled around the city by strong men.
Indonesia emerged from 350 years of Dutch rule when they proclaimed independence in 1945. Historically, Indonesia has been influenced by many religious beliefs. However, today, almost 90% follow the teachings of Islam. This day, before we set out on our journey in search of the red ape, we visited the Jakarta Zoo. It gave Zoo Atlanta architect John Coe an opportunity to talk shop.
So, from the architectural point of view, what do you think of our...
I think it's very beautiful. I would like, what I would like is if the animals were higher and the people were lower. So
okay, right. See, that is, jadi itu juga, itu stand. Yeah, yes, I agree that one. Last time we, so you have the exactly horizontal of your eyes. Yeah.
Or slightly,
Among the many exhibits John Coe is developing for Zoo Atlanta will be an exciting enclosure for Sumatran tigers.
I know that Zoo Atlanta soon will be getting some Sumatran tigers. Are these the ones that we'll be getting?
Yes, that will be yours very soon. Yeah,
in a unique arrangement with the Indonesian government, we'll be able to see these 2 Sumatran tigers in Atlanta by 1990. Here's a sneak preview of the plans.
The idea would be a waterfall.
Yeah.
And the tiger could lie underneath, behind the waterfall.
Right.
So the rain, the water from the waterfall drips down in front of it.
Yeah.
It would be very cool in the summer.
Yeah.
And of course it could jump in the pool and swim away.
Yeah, yeah.
And then looking down, there would be these big rocks which would be artificial, and a glass barrier.
Yeah.
And you would come between these rocks.
Yeah.
And then you would see
the tiger
under the waterfall, and the waterfall would drop down like this. And the tiger could then hop across or lie in the shade, or lie in the sun, or lie in
the exhibit promises to approximate the natural habitat as closely as possible within the zoo environment.
Well, I hope they'll be as happy in our new zoo as they are here.
Yeah.
This must really be one of the greatest treats to see these animals.
They're really incredible animals. You know, these are supposed to be more active and more athletic than most of the other tigers.
The public would adore
seeing these animals swim as we've seen them
Absolutely.
today.
I think swimming is a really
That's
important
really
behavior.
one of the
Yeah, you've got to
highlights,
get
isn't
that.
it?
Yeah.
I mean, that is really something spectacular.
I like
be
to
able
see them
have
in
that.
water. It would be really, really fine to do that.
Wonderful. You want me to come and swim with them? So.
Well, that's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, good.
You can swim with them any time at
Thank
your own
you.
risk.
Thank you very much.
Bring your insurance policy.
Thank you.
Zoo Atlanta's contact with other zoos around the world is an investment which will hopefully realize great gains, not only for Atlanta and Jakarta, but for the sake of animals whose very existence we are trying to preserve, especially the orangutan that we had come so far to see in the wild.
Even little children love orangutan down in the rainforest on the line. Hey, orangutan, orangutan.
As we got off the bus at the head of the Alas River, I encouraged Terry not to give up his day job at the zoo for a singing career. All thoughts of Hollywood were soon dwarfed when confronted with the sight of our vehicles for the next few days.
I think maybe I could ride in this boat all by myself. This is like a Chattahoochee special.
But Atlanta's Chattahoochee River never looked like this. The river guide must have known we were relatively new to rafting.
These boats don't move well unless you all paddle together. If you're all paddling together at the same time, it moves beautifully. Plus, you must hold your paddle correctly. Everybody.
Soon, under the watchful eye of 40 mesmerized village children, 10 village women, 5 Indonesian cows, 3 guides, and Captain Dave, we struck out on the Alas River, sideways.
A little harder forward, please. We're going to bump here. We're going to bump. Hold on. Stop.
It was easy at first, but soon our newfound skills would be put to the test.
Just keep going nice and easy forward. Got a couple of good waves in here, actually. Good work, good work. That's it. Keep digging, keep digging. Go on forward. Harder, harder forward. Harder forward. Keep going. Keep going, keep going. And stop. That's good, we're in the eddy. Good work.
For us, it was an accomplishment. For a few Indonesian fishermen, it was all in a day's work.
It's tough. Somebody's got to live in the jungle. Might as well be us.
By now, we had toured Indonesia for 2 weeks, but our search for the red ape began in earnest this day. We spent endless hours looking through binoculars and telescopic lenses. We were delighted when, like most searchers, discovery came when we least expected it, around the next bend.
There's a monitor lizard. Look, on the bank.
Monitor lizards, sun worshippers. They reach their peak activity when the sun is up and their habitat has been warmed. These monitors can weigh less than an ounce or grow into giant monitor lizards, like the granddaddy of them all, the Komodo dragon, that we had seen just days before.
The island of Komodo is the home of the most ferocious monster of the South Seas, but it takes time to get there. It's an all-day boat ride and a hike to the Komodo National Park. And when we arrived, they threw out the welcome mat. Sort of. We were reminded that just 15 years ago, a Swiss tourist was caught napping on a beach by a Komodo dragon. All that was left were his camera and glasses. We'd heard dozens of stories about deadly dragons hissing and snarling, gulping down sheep and cattle, dripping with poisonous saliva and blood. We would find out later that none of it was an exaggeration. We were careful to stay a good distance from anything that moved in the woods, but as we drew deeper into the jungle, The shape of a 12-foot-long Komodo dragon loomed in the distance, armed with razor claws, serrated teeth, toxic saliva, and a powerful tail swipe. This lizard could have weighed more than 250 pounds. We knew his only pastime was eating. Was it tracking us? Or was it heading elsewhere? We soon found out.
They definitely smell it, don't they?
Yep.
There they go. Whoa.
The dragons found the remains of a goat carcass and devoured it.
That is a fast lizard.
The Indonesian government has set aside this island for Komodo dragons, which are meat eaters. They raise goats on this island to feed the Komodos.
No, get away, get away.
This one seems to have had enough goat, though, and is more interested in the photographer.
Watch out, Max.
A short distance away, several more Komodos feast on the freshly killed goat.
It's interesting that that big one has obviously got the majority of the carcass in his mouth, and no one is challenging him. And there seems to be a much bigger male on this side. This young one who's tearing at it, who doesn't seem to be having much success, you reckon that's because his jaws probably aren't that strong?
Well, his jaws may be pretty strong, but it doesn't look like he's got good tearing teeth. They're just sort of gumming things. It may be that they're just built for carrion or much softer food.
There's this other one in the bottom who seems to have a death grip on. Would he be able to swallow that carcass whole?
It doesn't look like he could, but I think he'd try. Probably only one of the biggest could actually swallow it whole. But they say that their jaws are dismountable to some extent. They can swallow enormous amounts. Usually they'd only have one meal every 10 days, maybe 2 weeks.
That's what you call a death grip.
Yes. Well, apparently that's their strategy. They wait in ambush for a pig or a deer, and if they do get hold of it, they just hold on and just don't let go.
Although the giant monitor lizards are regarded as primitive and dragon-like, they are not descendants of the dinosaur age. They are, in fact, a modern lizard that can adapt to any warm habitat.
I would imagine that it would be a really tough sell to get people to sort of feel kindly toward the great monster dragon here who is...
Often people are as excited or more excited by things that repulse them as they are by things that attract them. Reptile collections and snake houses are among the very most popular zoo exhibits around the world.
Satisfied, the Komodos left their bloody feast, and we left Komodo Island with mixed feelings about this incredible creature we had come to observe. None of us were too happy about the goat led to the slaughter, but it reminded us that sometimes conservation of any species can be a painful experience, including conservation of orangutans. As the sky darkened with thunderclouds and nightfall, we wondered what our next discovery would be as we continued our search for the great ape.
This is a chance.
Orangutan, orangutan, won't you marry me? Orangutan, orangutan, beneath the banyan tree. Orangutan, orangutan, won't you marry me?
It was the second day on our journey down the Alas River to search for the red ape. Terry had his camera out most of the time. He said he was looking for orangutan, but I think he was just trying to get out of paddling. John Coe was taking notes on the rock walls of the riverbank to see what he could replicate at the new Zoo Atlanta exhibit.
That's one reason I'm so interested in these banks that we go by, because we have to have some sort of barriers that'll hold orangutans, you know, without big handholds in them. And these vertical sand and ash banks are ideal. So we want to find one that we say, hey, that'll do it, you know, and then really study it and take some pictures of it so we can take it back and try to recreate that.
Rock walls in deep ravines will separate families of orangutan at Zoo Atlanta. In some other American zoos, orangutans have become known as the great escape artists. scaling the walls of even the most modern facilities. John's challenge is to build an enclosure secure enough to keep the orangutans in without making the exhibit look unnatural.
In a John Coe zoo, everybody says, how come that tree's not straight up? Somebody put that tree on there wrong. Of course they did, on purpose. That's the way it looks out here, too. It's all growing out this way, it's growing out that way, coming down this way. That's the way it is in nature.
If there were orangutan here, they certainly weren't coming over these walls. And we hadn't seen much of any wildlife here either. For a national park, there seemed to be more than its fair share of fishing. In fact, just around every bend, there was some sort of camp, fashioned out of whatever was available, usually palm and banana leaves.
Are we a bit more forward? Stop. Listen. Did you hear that up on the left?
We thought it was the hornbill, a modern-day descendant of a prehistoric bird. But as we gazed skyward, we found another extraordinary sight. The only mammal in the world with wings, the Indonesian fruit bat.
Stop.
Hundreds of them, hanging upside down from an enormous fig tree. As seen in some zoos, the fruit bat, or flying fox as they're called, sleep mostly by day and eat by night.
They are closer to humans on the evolutionary tree than to the rodents they resemble. And they have their own hierarchy. The dominant males are at the top of the tree, with the subordinate males beneath them. Third tier down, the females with offspring. And lastly, barren females. If there's an attack by a predator, the males, keeping watch up top, and the barren females on the bottom, serve as a protective buffer for the young.
The sight of hundreds of fruit bats in chaotic formation reminded us of the flying foxes we'd seen on another exotic Indonesian island, Bali. Like the third in a string of jewels along this coral sea, Bali stands as the cornerstone of Indonesian beauty. They call it the island of the gods. Whereas most of Indonesia's 190 million people are Muslim, Bali is predominantly Hindu. Even the monkeys are religious, or at least they look as if they are worshipping. They worship, and they worship some more.
And these are the nice ones.
Tourists from around the globe gather here to see the monkey temple and its inhabitants. If they look closely, they can see typical primate behavior. These two are grooming each other. It is social behavior that may have something to do with friendship or kinship. These two may even be sisters. As in all the animal kingdom, there is a hierarchy. Ken Gould, a specialist in reproductive biology, shows us how it works.
If I give a peanut to her, the other one may come up after it.
Hello. Some Balinese take great pleasure in watching animal hierarchy at work. Cockfighting is a big business in Bali, although the government outlawed it some years ago to protect the animals. Black markets being what they are, a salesman trading these roosters with sharpened claws can scratch out a small fortune in the local market.
16 for 2. Oh, good price at 20. Good for you. 20. Last price. Yeah, last price.
John Coe and Ken Gould aren't looking for roosters, but they are negotiating for flutes, hand-carved in Bali.
Okay, 18.
Nice, do you think 18? Yeah. Okay.
We got it 18.
Okay.
Okay, now pay up.
Now pay up.
All that for a few cents difference. 1,800 rupiah is actually just more than $1 US. Bali is called the Island of the Gods, and there are temples everywhere to attest to this. From private family sanctuaries in every village to the breathtaking Tanah Lot, which has inspired artists and photographers. Temples are also sometimes the scenes of morality plays, that show violent battle between the forces of good and evil. And as in nature, the extremes of good and evil are always animals. While the Balinese are fascinated with animals, tourists to this exotic island are fascinated with the Balinese. Bali is perhaps the best known of the more than 13,000 islands that make up Indonesia. Bali today is a delicate balance between culture and economy. Haircuts on the beach are still a couple of dollars. 50 cents will get you a massage, all under the watchful eye of the gods. We prefer to linger on the other image of Bali, of tropical birds nesting in the palms, a fisherman casting into the surf, of a farmer, his sweet-smelling clove cigarette dangling from his lips, watching his cows in the early morning sun, or a monkey with child, poised on a temple wall.
Easy forward.
Where's your water stop?
We passed it by. It was just a trickle. The spring was pretty much dried out. This would have taken about an hour to fill the large water bottle. So decided to
The
scrap
size of the leaves on these vines.
There's a side stream up just above camp, which is about just a few hundred meters.
As we made our way downstream to search for the orangutans, the heat grew more intense. Possessed by the demon that inhabits everyone who crosses the equator, we found the coolest waterfall around. Some of us climbed halfway up and jumped. Even in our tropical madness, one dark paradox became apparent. We were swimming freely in water that just 20 years ago would have been deadly. You see, once the Alas River was home to some of the largest reptiles ever to live on Earth. Man-eating crocodiles. 20 years ago, the Alas may have looked like this, in its eddies. Calm, peaceful, glass-like, except for a few rock-like bumps breaking through. Suddenly, an unwary duck flies into the pool. You can hear the bones crunch as it sets its sizable teeth into the hapless bird. But these reptiles are being raised by crocodile farmers on the outskirts of Medan, Sumatra's capital city. For in some parts of the wild, you see, they've been poached into near extinction. The government hopes that by allowing farmers to raise and sell crocodiles, they can satisfy commercial demand for the reptiles and combat poaching in the wild. We wondered if the red ape, for which we had come halfway around the world, had suffered the same fate as the crocodile, and if in fact the man of the forest had become a man of the past.
When we come back, we'll take you to see something most of us never see in our lifetimes, great apes in the wild. You are watching a Channel 2 special.
After 3 days on the river searching for the red ape, we realized we'd have to leave our boats and get into the jungle to see what we'd come so far to see.
Conservation Center. That's where the Indonesian government takes orangutans, illegally acquired by the local people as pets, and reintroduces them to the wilderness. Years ago, it was standard practice for animal dealers to acquire baby orangutans by killing their mothers. Ironically, many of these babies were then sent to zoos all over the world.
Today, there are still people in Indonesia who illegally obtain primates of all kinds. Orangutans make popular pets, and the government has had to confiscate these animals wherever they locate them. More than 100 animals have been rehabilitated since the program began 20 years ago. That may not seem like many, but when you consider that by some estimates there are only 3,000 to 5,000 orangutans left in Sumatra, it is a significant percentage.
In 15 years of studying these animals, I had never seen an orangutan in the wild. I was like an expectant father, waiting for my first child to arrive, and it did. High in the trees above us, a large orangutan was swinging from the limbs in our direction. Another watched us from a distance. They were barely visible against the sun, so low in the sky, but they were determined to gather, as they do every day at this time, at the same spot in the jungle, for food. These rangers are reintroducing the orangutans to the wild by carefully weaning them from both domestic food and human contact. Notice how they take great care not to look the orangutans in the eye or make any contact with them beyond serving food. No smiling, no recognition, no touching. They will gradually decrease the amount of food and human contact until the orangutans learn how to forage through the jungle themselves. Then the feeding is cut off and the reintroduction is complete.
It is sometimes difficult to watch when the feeding is over and the rangers return to camp. The orangutans are left up on their feeding platform with sad faces.
Well, the animal is being sent out into the wild, so it has to break the bond with human beings. It's been a captive in a human home for too long, so they have to learn to be orangutans, and this is part of the process, the transition from living in a home to living in the wild. How do you feel when you see one of these guys? You've had him here for 4 or 5 years, and he's lived here, and you've taken care of him. When he goes off and you don't see him again, how do you feel? How does that make you feel?
And I'm very happy.
Yeah?
If they go to the forest,
yeah,
I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because they're success.
Because you've made success. Yeah, that's good. You're doing a wonderful job saving orangutans for the forest, and I compliment you. I congratulate you as he's biting your finger off.
We were also doing our part for continuing research into the survival of orangutans. Through a grant from Zoo Atlanta, 2 scientists from Seattle began some extraordinary field work while we were there.
Hey, Harmony, could you shake that tray a little?
Harmony Taylor-Frazier and Dr. William Carish of the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle were tracking orangutans.
And then there's a wild one up there.
Their mission, to shoot a specially prepared dart into the side of the orangutan. Bill has an orangutan in his sights, but he won't fire until the animal turns around. You don't want to harm the orangutan. That's the whole point of this process in the first place.
What's unique about this project is that the only way this work could ever be done before was to anesthetize the animals and draw blood. And with our biopsy dart, we don't have to do that. It would be impossible to try to anesthetize orangutans in trees. They drop out and injure themselves. So that's why this project's different than what's been done before.
Like a tiny cookie cutter, it will remove a small piece of skin from its back. Later, they will examine the chromosomal makeup of the specimen to determine which subspecies of orangutan the animal belongs to.
This important research will help scientists to understand which orangutans they can reintroduce to the wild and where, and help contribute to the survival of the species.
When we come back, we'll take you to a couple of zoos that are among the best in the world in preserving...
Stand again. This has been my home for 3 days. You see those blood stains on the wall? That's my blood. Hear those gibbons? That's why we're here.
days on the river and you'll do anything for a bath.
Hold your breath and then catch your breath in between the waves. The other thing is when you get right out to this point here, you can see that start to ease up a little bit, then start your swim in to shore. If you go out too far, it's a lot of work to get back in.
While some of us were bathing, others were making another breakfast of nasi goreng, a local mash of eggs and rice, and fried rice patties, sort of an Indonesian potato chip. We were hungry enough to eat just about anything that was served to us on the river. And we entertained ourselves with yet another more rousing rendition of Terry Maple's theme song.
Orangutan, orangutan, won't you marry me? Orangutan, orangutan, beneath the banyan tree.
Hey!
We were all beginning to understand why zoos can sometimes be the most comfortable place to observe wildlife. This fact was never more true than when we visited two of the world's better zoos.
The Zurich Zoo stands out as being among the best in the world in keeping their animals active. Look at these orangutans. The former director of the zoo, Dr. Heine Hediger, came up with a concept called habitat enrichment, dedicated to the notion that if animals are active, they're happy.
What kinds of things do you put in there to encourage them to be more active?
I put in anything we can. Paper, for instance.
Yeah.
Straw, branches are their favorite. We try to put something in so they can work with it,
right.
See, so they have something to do all day.
The keepers try to make eating in the enclosure as difficult and as natural as possible.
Sumatran orangutans are totally arboreal, so in the wild they get the food high up in the trees, and that's why we are feeding our Sumatran orangutans on the roof of the exhibit, so they actually have to climb to get their food, their daily food, 4 times a day, by the way.
Dr. Christian Schmidt, curator of mammals, has more than just an academic interest in orangutans. He hand-raised 2 of them, Moni and Johnny, both coincidentally fathered by a male orangutan from Yerkes Primate Center in Atlanta. However, they were not pets.
We hand-raised 2 specimens born in another zoo. These 2 females have not been accepted by their mothers, and therefore they were hand-reared in the homes here in Zurich. And we started to reintroduce them at an age of 6 months already. And when they reached an age of 2 years, they were fully integrated in the group without big problems.
Did you get emotionally attached?
Yes, that's true. With every big ape that is raised in a home, it's half a child.
And so was it difficult letting her go?
No, not at all, because at an age of 1 year they start to climb around, and you can hardly keep them anymore in an apartment. And I can visit them every day here in the zoo.
At this zoo, you can see how someone like Dr. Schmidt can get attached to orangutans. They are very intelligent. In order to exercise their minds, zookeepers put a sweet mixture of jelly and raisins inside a hollowed-out log. They teach them that the only way they can get to the mixture is by finding a stick and jamming it into the small hole, as we would use eating utensils. Some make it, others don't.
If habitat enrichment is done well in Zurich, the Jakarta Zoo takes it one step further. Here, the entire zoo is a playground for curious orangutans.
It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Why do these orangs get in the carts and go around the zoo? For what purpose?
Many purposes. Number one, of course, We will give them time to exercise and also to see the zoo.
So they're sightseeing.
Yeah, they have
They're seeing
right,
the zoo.
right. They're sightseeing for themselves, and then it makes them, for them, it's a fun thing, yeah, instead of boring all the time in the cages and the playground.
These animals are such crowd pleasers in zoos. In fact, even in the wild, orangutans have no natural enemies, no tigers or crocodiles to pressure them. People do not hunt them for their meat. They should be able to live in this natural environment forever, right? Wrong. On our last day, as we floated further down the Alas River, one of the reasons became painfully clear.
Listen to the trucks and the chainsaws.
Still in the national park, we could see evidence of man's encroachment on the habitat. Even in what should have been a protected place, people are cutting down trees, destroying the orangutan's home.
The red ape is dependent on mature primary forest, big trees. It lives in the upper canopy. Orangutans cannot live outside this habitat.
Each one of those trees is worth a small fortune here for a local man trying to feed his family.
190 million people struggling for survival on a group of tiny islands. The population pressure on the last remaining rainforest is not the only problem. Commercial ventures take thousands of acres from the rainforests each year. Efforts to save the rainforests may be too little, too late.
Worldwide conservation is the ultimate phoenix story. We're on the brink, and we have to make a comeback. And just like Zoo Atlanta made a comeback. And we can do it. It's going to take strong leadership.
Are zoos really necessary? Yes. But once the habitat of the animal is gone, is the animal technically gone, or is it now just a zoo animal?
You don't destroy paintings when the artist dies.
Exhibiting animals without a habitat or in the wrong habitat is actually giving them the wrong message altogether. But hopefully a real dramatic animal in the right habitat can get people excited enough that these kinds of things mean something.
And we don't have a generation here in Sumatra. It's an island the size of California, and things are going fast.
Already, during this century, conservation biologists estimate that nearly 80% of animal species have become extinct.
We are looking at areas of land, species of animals, that will absolutely not be here. That's happened in the last 80 years. That is a staggering amount when you consider the entire history of the creation of the planet.
More than 100 years ago, the legendary island of Krakatoa blew itself apart, erupting into the biggest bang ever recorded on Earth. Coastal Sumatra was devastated. More than 36,000 people were killed. But the rainforest grew back quickly, fueled by fertile ash that fell to the ground. Today, even as the child of Krakatoa burps and belches its way through daily temper tantrums, the rainforest faces certain extinction. Not from a cataclysmic explosion of an extraordinary volcano, but from ordinary people, just trying to make a living. Sadly, the man of the forest cannot depend on his fellow man to survive. For me, our raft trip was a magical journey to where we least wanted to go. But in the religious tradition of Southeast Asia, it is the search, the journey that counts. And oh, what a journey it was.
And if it looks like a rainforest, that's the point.
Ah, yes, but it's much more comfortable, much cooler.
Welcome back, Stephanie and Terry. Terry, a lot of people don't know that although you're a magnificent zoo director, you're not much of a tent pitcher, I understand. Is that right, Stephanie?
Oh, yes. My fondest memory of Terry, the unusual way that he had of discovering how exactly to erect his tent alongside the Alas River.
However, I do remember that you had the neatest tent of all.
My mother would be very happy to hear that. This is my non-inflating, inflatable mat on which I slept after a fashion. This is my life vest with which I went down the rapids. It doesn't dry either.